Hey everyone, thank you for joining me through this pot holder makeover. If you're doing my amigurumi green pot holder, there are some changes that I've made with the yellow one, and I started with the head and creating a different look for the face and also the hook. So that might be something you want to try, or you can also follow along with the green pot holder if you like that pattern better. Right now, for today, we're going to be doing what's called the puff stitch arms. So if you've created the head and the face, you want to count 1, 2, 3, 4 down. And in that fourth stitch between the first and the second loop, insert your size 4E, it's also an E, US crochet hook, and you're going to loop your yarn, your yellow yarn, back around, pulling it through. Now, the beak is orange, and on real chickens, you're probably going to have more of an orange arm and leg. If you prefer to use orange, you can do that, or if you prefer to use a real fun color, it doesn't matter as long as it's 100% cotton and doesn't burn when you put it on the stove. So you're going to go ahead and just pull that stitch through. Now, I call that a cast on stitch. That is not counted as a stitch. I use that a lot to cast the yarn back onto my project. And so for all intents and purposes, you're going to work through that stitch again, considering this is not really a stitch, it's just a cast on stitch. Now this is called a tail. Your tail is something you can either cut off, work through with a crochet needle, or you can cut off with your crochet scissor, whichever you prefer. I like to work it through so that when you put it through the wash, it doesn't come untangled. So I am going to work through this stitch as if there's nothing there, and we're going to pretend we're starting from scratch. So I'm going to wrap my yarn, assuming this is one piece of yarn. I'm just working my tail through and insert it back through that same stitch and pull it through. So basically you've worked your tail in. If you haven't, and that's too difficult as a first-time beginner, don't worry about it, because it is a little bit of a challenge to do that. All right, so we're going to wrap it around again, go through the same stitch, wrap it around, go through the same stitch. Again, this is a little bit tricky, and I'm going to pull that tail tight, wrap it around, go through the same stitch. 3 times we're wrapping it around and going through. So you should have quite a bundle on your crochet hook. So make sure it's not too, I just ruined that, but I'm just trying to illustrate a point, and by illustrating a point, I ended up taking everything off. So make sure it's not too tight. Wrap this one around again, and what you're going to do is you're going to take this one and pull it through this hot mess of and just take your time as you're pulling the needle, pull it through, the hook, pull it through tightly. And you've created what's considered, quote, your first puff stitch. Now, in order for that to be kind of a puff arm, you're going to just wrap it around and pull it through. So there you are. That's your first little arm. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to put the crochet hook through the next 2 loops, and you're going to pull it through, and you're going to pull it through again like a slip stitch. Sorry if I was off camera for that. And the reason you're pulling it through and pulling it through again as a slip stitch, so that you're defining that puff stitch arm. So you're going to create the same puff stitch that you did right here in this next one. So you're going to wrap it around, pull it through, wrap it around. You've got 3. For some reason there was some fuzz on there. There's 3. Wrap it around, go through the same one, pull it through. You've done that twice now. Wrap it around, go through the same one, pull it through. That's 3 times. Wrap it around and pull it through the entire hot mess. That is your second arm. You're just going to wrap it around and pull that through to define that little arm there. And what are you going to do with the third one? There's 3 that we're creating here, 3. So we're just going to go through this and slip stitch. So slip stitching it really defines that arm, and that's really what you want to have happen, is that little arm is defined. Okay, so the next thing you're going to do is wrap it around, and you're going to do that same, oh, I'm sorry, before we do that, yeah, I'm going in the wrong one. We're going in the same one that we just did that slip stitch. I'm sorry. Wrap it around, go through that, pull it through. Make sure you're going through the same stitch that you did the slip stitch in. Wrap it around. This is the second time. Remembering we're wrapping it around 3 times. And then we're wrapping it around and pulling it through. Now, we have to wrap it around and pull it through. That's the third arm. Now, in order to close that up, we're just going to go into the next one and slip stitch. Ta-da! So the way that we do this is we cut this off here. We pull it all the way through, and you can tighten it a little bit if you want. And then I'm going to take my crochet needle, and I'm going to work this back in, and when I work it back in, it's going to look just like that. And you want to repeat that, so you go 1, 2, 3 on the other side, and then you start across. Now, in order to do that, you're going to have to work from the back in order to make sure you do 1, 2, 3, because if you start 1, 2, 3 here, then you're going to have a tendency to work up. And I'll give you a hint. The puff stitch on this pretty much looks the same in the back as it does the front. So all you have to do is just flip your work, count 1, 2, 3, and then start down. And you should have pretty much the same puff stitch as you do over there. Or if you prefer, you can count the number of stitches 3 down, and then you can count the number of stitches that you did here, 3 and 1. So you start in the 7th stitch, do a slip stitch, and work up that way. If you prefer to work from the front and you're afraid that your stitch is not looking the same as a puff stitch from the front and the back. So hopefully that makes sense. You can work from the front going this way, the back going this way, or you can work from the front going backwards. Thank you so much, and the next tutorial we have on this chicken is the feet, and that will finalize our pot holder. Thank you so much. Have a great day.